have a 10-year-old daughter. Her name is Mia. She's our CEO junior. And when Mia was born, I've always had crazy jobs, travel around the world and speak. When she was 4, she said to me, I had a speaking gig, I was going somewhere, she said, Mama, do people actually come and listen to you? And I was like, well, it's a good question, because to her, I'm just her mama. I make sandwiches and stuff. So I started a tradition. Whenever I speak, I take a photo of people, and we have this whole gallery at home. So I'm going to put this down. You guys are going to look really, really happy and pretend like you really want to hear what I have to say. And we're going to take a photo. We're going to add it to the Mia gallery. Okay, ready? All right. I don't know. I'm going to get everyone in. But okay, can we look like really... to curse? Yeah. Okay. It's really hard for me. I did a TV interview the other day, and I forgot because it wasn't it was to tape. It wasn't live, but you're not allowed to curse on tape either. That's I learned that. So Keith asked me to talk about chance, which I thought was awesome because it made me kind of think through my life, my career, happier, and realize that actually it is a lot about chance. So, but I thought what I would do is share with you guys kind of how I think about chance and what it's meant for me personally. And hopefully in there are some lessons. Hopefully in there is a kick in the butt to take a chance. And then at the end, just so you know where we're going, there's a really, really secret mathematical equation, which you guys will see for the first time. This is a world premiere about chance. So just so you know, pay attention to the end. So let's start with chance. The first thing I think about chance is I think you should take some. So just starting out, and when I was thinking about what's a first chance I should talk about, for me, it would have to be 2. When I was 4, I decided I wanted to be a figure skater. Now, you have to remember I was in the Soviet Union, which used to be called the Soviet Union. It's now Russia. It keeps changing its name. I grew up in a city called Leningrad. It's now St. Petersburg. They just, you know, having jumpy identity. So I decided I wanted to be an Olympic figure skater. And in Russia, if you did an activity and you wanted to be on a track, you had to be either amazing or not. And if you were not, you were taken off the ice. And I had this, I was 4, and I had this performance with tryout, and I decided to take, I was supposed to do a double jump, a double Lutz. And I decided I was going to be so cool, and I was going to take a chance without telling my coach, telling my parents, telling anyone, I'm going to attempt a triple. Without practicing very much, without actually knowing how to do it, but I was going to do it in the tryout that was going to determine whether I get on this team or not. I flopped on my face. I mean, I fell. It was awful. And the coach was not a very nice person. She literally, as I was lying there, walked over to me and stood over me and said, "You're so out of here." And that was it. That was the end of my figure skating career. So that's a chance. There was no more. I tried to look for a photo. We weren't allowed to bring a lot of photos out of Russia, so no photos. Here's probably the second chance that kind of set me on a path I was in. So I grew up, as I mentioned, in the Soviet Union, and when I was 13 and a half, my parents and I left everything and escaped. So we were allowed 2 suitcases. I'll never forget it. 2 suitcases per person and $600, so $200 per person. This is us. I don't know if you guys can see. Oh, this is good that it's faded because you're not going to comment on my fashion sense because I'm wearing pleated pants. These clothes were donated in a pile. That's my excuse. We went to a refugee camp first in Austria where we were hiding in a red light district, which is really weird when you're 13 and you wake up and you take a nap and you wake up and there's a lot of prostitutes around. Just a weird thing. And then we went, for a few months we lived in refugee camps in Italy applying for permission to come here. We got really lucky, and after 2.5 months we got permission to enter the US, and we went to New York. We flew into New York. I kissed the ground, absolute cheese ball, and then we flew to Detroit, where we would live in a settlement, in a housing project for a year. I got to tell you guys, when you take a chance and you're coming to America, which is like, oh my God, and you land in a project in Detroit, it's a fucking letdown. It's like, what the? Yeah, the first words, I didn't speak English. The first words I learned in English were all about cocaine and the criminal code. I mean, no joke. I could tell you every offense. I was the only white kid in the school. It was, the point of this, it was really rough. It was a really, you know, I tell funny stories about it now. It was a really horrible time for me and my family. We lived on welfare and food stamps, and my parents had to learn English and find jobs. And we climbed out of it eventually. And the thing that I realized is, we took this chance. My parents took this chance. I just came along for the ride. None of it worked out exactly how we meant to, but it gave me this enormous chance to be here, which for me is the greatest chance I've ever had. And I'll fast forward to some fun chances I've had in my career, because when I talk to people about what I've done, there's a lot of questions like, wow, well, how'd you do that? How'd you do that? So I thought I'd tell you, fast forward from refugee camps through the Detroit projects, New York City, where I moved after college. At the ripe age of 24, I became a venture capitalist. Now, I don't know how many of you guys, do you guys know about venture capital? It's just like dark world, right? So first of all, there's no women there. Venture capital has less women than plumbing. It's less than 3% professional women if you don't count assistants and operational staff. I was 24 and I became a junior partner. And you'd think this happened because I'm like so smart and like I did something. No, it was all about a chance meeting. So the company I ended up working for is called Hudson Ventures. It's in New York. And I was starting a company. I was pitching a company to them. Now this was 2002. And I was pitching a company in the ebook space. There was like 2 ebooks in the world. And I had this brilliant idea with this friend of mine that we were going to do this interoperable software to help people go from one format to another. Well, there was literally like 2 ebooks, but you know, we were visionaries or just stupid. So we were pitching this company to this firm, and the senior partner literally leans over. And I said something like, oh, and you know, our publishing partners are 100% behind us, and one of them is like 150% like wants to make this happen. He leans over. This is a pitch, you know, so I'm like doing my best. It's all formal. He closes my laptop, and he looks at me and says, Natalie, I don't understand how anyone can be more than 100% behind you. And I'm going like, fuck. I think this is like a cliche English. What's wrong with my English? Like, I'm freaking out. So I decided I could either cry, which is what I really want to do, or what I did, which is I said, Jay, his name is Jay Goldberg. I said, Jay, English is my second language. And I was taught Americans like cliches. So I thought this was a cliche I'm using, but I'll make you a deal. I will never use this cliche again if you invest in the company. Finally, he laughs. He cracks up. My co-founder, I thought, was like, you know, going to pass out. He's like, what the hell are you doing? We left the meeting. I get a phone call. It's Jay Goldberg, and he says, hey, kiddo, the company is not going to make it. There's really no market for your products. He was right. But I want to offer you a job. I want you to come and join us as a junior partner because you have a serious attitude and a spine, and no one really has ever stood up to me that way. To which I thought the wise thing to say was, well, I think you have an attitude problem, and I don't know about this venture capital thing, and I'm totally going to make this company work. That was the end of that phone call. 9 months later, we ran out of money, and I needed a job. So I called Jay Goldberg back, and I said, hey, Jay, can I have that job back? And he said, yeah. So that's how I became a venture capitalist. That's a chance, people. Which led me to another chance, and this is, I didn't make a slide for this, but I think if you take chances, one of the things that I've learned is you got to give chances. It kind of does work like that. You have to take some and then give some. And so I was a VC. You guys probably know this company, Constant Contact, Boston company. Everybody know Constant Contact? If you have a small business, I hope you're using them. So I was a VC for a really long time, like 3 months. I was so smart. I was so into the job. I didn't know anything. I was still learning. And this company comes in to pitch, and the CEO, Gail Goodman, comes in and pitches this way for small businesses to get online. And my partners, it was me, and I called them 4 geriatrics, because they were like 65 and super brilliant, but they were very geriatric. And they look at her, and they're like, oh, and this was, again, 2002. They were like, internet is over, online marketing is over. They invested in kind of enterprise software, and they were like, no. And they, by the time Constant Contact burned $30 million, you know, they hadn't made a lot of progress. They had 2,000 customers. I fell in love with Gail. I was like, wow, this woman can like walk through a brick wall and make a business. And also, small businesses are going to have to figure out how to market online. So I didn't know you needed a partner to negotiate a deal. So I went and negotiated this great deal. I spent time in Boston, you know, and then presented it to the partners to invest in. They looked at me. The first response was, what the fuck are you doing? Like, you can't go negotiate deals without a senior partner. Okay. Don't ask for permission. That's a big lesson. And the second thing, I kept going at them, and eventually they gave me, this is a quote, $1 million to invest and fail with. They said this in front of the CEO. They said, here's $1 million, which is not a lot of money. Go invest and learn your lesson. Constant Contact became the largest return for the fund. I was on the board for 5 years. It was not all happy at the beginning, but an incredible success, incredible team. We took the company IPO. It is the single largest return for the venture fund. I took a chance on Gail, and the partners not knowing, but took a chance on me. So that was a big lesson for me, and you don't necessarily know when the chance is in front of you, but if you can give it to someone and work really hard, it'll pay back.